Hello and welcome to my latest video. On this video we are counting down on my top 1000 of 2025 from numbers 840 down to 831. So let us go to the first fighter now. Fighter number 840, okay, and it is Mauro Mina. Now Mauro Mina, okay, beat one world champion. He fought 10 rounds against champions. And Mina beat one Hall of Fame fighter, also fighting 10 rounds against Hall of Famers. Now against rated fighters, Mauro Mina comes in with a total of 17 fights against rated opponents. He scored 25 knockouts in his career, 11 of them in 3 rounds or less and 2 in the first round. Now Mauro Mina was also top 10 rated, okay, for 5 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 39 fights. Now Mauro Mina was pound for pound rated for 1 year in my all-time rankings, and he had one fight against pound for pound fighters, scoring one win against pound for pounders. He also scored win over one pound for pound top 3 rated fighter, but no wins over pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. Mauro Mina's opposition fought rate was 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 2 from 13. So against champions, he has one fight that was a win with no KOs. He matches that in his Hall of Fame record, okay, one fight which was a win with 0 KOs, and Mauro Mina had no world title fights. So Mauro Mina kicks off this latest 10 fighters, okay. On to our next fighter, okay, is UK fighter Robin Reid. Robin Reid defeated 4 world champions, and he fought just over 100 rounds against champions, coming in with a total of 103. Now Robin Reid beat no Hall of Fame fighters. He did fight 17 rounds against Hall of Famers in his career, and against rated opponents, okay, Robin Reid comes in with a total of 10 fights overall. Now in knockouts, Reid scored 29 KOs, 15 of them in 3 rounds or less and 8 in the first round. Robin Reid was top 10 rated for a total of 7 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 26 fights in total. Now, being a pound for pounder, Robin Reid never was, okay, he was never rated in my all-time rankings. He did have 2 fights against pound for pound fighters, scoring 1 win against pound for pounders, but Reid scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 or pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. And his opposition fought rate is 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So Robin Reid had 10 fights against champions. That includes 4 wins, 6 losses, no draw with 1 KO. He has 2 fights against Hall of Famers, both of which are defeats. And he has 8 world title fights, Reid, including 4 wins, 4 loss, no draw, and 3 title defences. So Robin Reid is in 839. Okay, when we go to fighter number 838, it is Scottish fighter Jim Watt, okay, the former lightweight champion. Of course, adversary of the great Alexis Arguello, who took that lightweight title from him. Jim Watt beat 2 world champions, okay, he fought 57 rounds against champions, and he beat no Hall of Fame fighters. Jim Watt, though, did fight 30 rounds against Hall of Famers, and against rated opponents, okay, Jim Watt comes in with a total of 10 fights overall. Now in knockouts, Jim Watt scored 27 KOs, okay, 4 of them in 3 rounds or less and 1 in the first round. And Jim Watt, okay, was top 10 rated for a total of 4 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run that ran to 12 fights in total. He was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings, okay, but Jim Watt did have 2 fights against pound for pounders, but scored 0 wins in the 3 pound for pound categories. Onto his opposition fought rate, that is 2 from 18, and the opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So against champions, Jim Watt had 4 fights against champions. That includes 2 wins, 2 losses, no draw with 1 KO. His 2 fights against Hall of Famers are both defeats, and he had a total of 6 world title fights, okay, scoring 5 wins with the loss to Alexis Arguello, the great explosive thin man himself, a fighter I love to pieces. And Jim Watt also scored 4 title defences. So there's Jim Watt in 838. When we go to 837, okay, his former cruiserweight champion Vasily Jirov. Now Vasily Jirov, okay, beat 3 world champions. He fought 58 rounds against champions, and he beat no Hall of Famers, Jirov, but he did fight 21 rounds against Hall of Fame fighters. And Jirov had 8 fights in total against rated opponents. Now in knockouts, Vasily Jirov scored 32 KOs. 21 of them were in 3 rounds or less, and he also scored 7 first round wins. Now, Jirov was top 10 rated as a fighter for a total of 5 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 31 fights in total. Now, Jirov was never pound for pound rated in my all-time rankings. He had 2 fights against pound for pounders in his career, but scored 0 wins in the 3 pound for pound categories, and his opposition fought rate is 2 from 18, and the opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So, Vasily Jirov, okay, had 6 fights against champions. That includes 3 wins, 2 loss, 1 draw, with 1 KO. He has 2 fights against Hall of Famers. Both are defeats. And Jirov had 8 world title fights. That included 7 wins, 1 loss, no draw, and 6 title defences. So there is Vasily Jirov in 837. Okay, when we go to fight at 836, it is the formidable puncher, Harry Smith, the middleweight. Harry Smith beat 1 world champion and he fought 10 rounds against champions. He also matches that with 1 Hall of Famer beaten individually and 10 rounds against Hall of Fame fighters. And Harry Smith had a total of 12 fights against rated opponents. He scored 37 knockouts in his career. 22 of them were in 3 rounds or less. And Harry Smith also scored 9 first round wins. Now, he was top 10 rated himself as a fighter for 3 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 37 fights. Now, Harry Smith was never rated in my all-time pound for pound rankings. He also had no fights against pound for pound rated fighters, and therefore scores no wins in the 3 pound for pound categories. And his opposition fought rate comes in at 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is also 2, but from 13. Now, he had 1 fight against a champion. That was a win with 0 KOs. He also matches that against Hall of Famers. 1 fight that was a win with 0 KOs, and he also has 1 title fight that was a win with 0 title defences. So there's Harry Smith, okay, in 836. When we go to 835, okay, is the first fighter to lose their world title to the great Manny Pacquiao, okay, Chachai Sasakul. Now, Chachai Sasakul, okay, himself beat 3 world champions. He fought 54 rounds against champions, and Sasakul beat no Hall of Fame fighters. He did fight 8 rounds against said Hall of Famer, and Sasakul had a total of 6 fights against rated opponents. Now, in terms of knockouts, Sasakul scored 38 knockouts, 17 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 1 in the first round. And he was rated a number of years throughout his career. He was top 10 rated altogether for 7 years throughout his career. And the longest unbeaten run in Sasakul's career was an unbeaten run of 20 fights. Now, Sasakul did get pound for pound rated for 1 year. He also had 3 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 1 win, but he scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 or pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. And Chachai Sasakul, his opposition fought rate is 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 2 from 13. Yes, good morning, mine. I hope you're well, buddy. I'm really good. I'm just getting this done now because the 2 files I'm amending and working on are Ezzard Charles and Emil Griffith, 2 major ones. So I'm currently getting all the info into the new columns I've added and amending some of the other things. So yeah, I'm going to get this video out of way now a bit earlier than the other day, but I really want to get them 2 files amended. Ezzard Charles and Emil Griffith, 2 major league fighters. So, on to Chachai Sasakul's fights against champions. Now, he has 6 in total, okay, with 3 wins, 3 loss, no draw, and 1 KO. He has 1 fight against a Hall of Famer that is a defeat, of course, to the great Manny Pacquiao. And he has 6 world title fights, including 3 wins, 3 losses, no draws, and 2 title defences. So, Chachai Sasakul is 835. When we go to 834, it is a more modern era light heavyweight champion Adonis Stevenson. Yes, it is tragic that the fight with Sergei Kovalev never happened when Kovalev was champion and a bit more formidable. But ultimately, you know, that's another fight we've missed out on. You know, Adonis Stevenson didn't seem too keen on it, in all honesty. Even though he begs to differ, you know, the proof is in the pudding, so to speak. You know, the taste of the sauce is actually by tasting the sauce, not what by the chef says the sauce tastes like. So yeah, I never really bought Adonis Stevenson. He seemed very against the Sergei Kovalev fight. So anyway, where does he rate now in my top 1,000? Well, he comes in 834th place. Adonis Stevenson, some people call him a great light heavyweight champion. No, that is not, I don't think, really any kind of based factual statement, but it is what it is. You know, some people might think he can walk on water, but my ratings don't think so compared to other great light heavyweights, sadly. So Adonis Steven beat 4 world champions. He fought 49 rounds against champions, and Stevenson beat no Hall of Fame fighters, also fought no rounds against Hall of Famers. And Adonis Stevenson had a total of 8 fights against rated opponents. He scored 24 knockouts in his career, 15 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 10 in the first round. The one thing about Stevenson, he was a brutal puncher. But, you know, whereas Andre Ward and Sergei Kovalev, you know, were badly hurt by Darnell Boone. You know, Darnell Boone actually beat Stevenson. He didn't beat Kovalev, even though he hurt him pretty badly. And he didn't beat Ward. But he did beat Stevenson. Okay. So, you know, it is what it is. But Adonis Stevenson was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years. The longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 17 fights. And he was pound for pound rated for 1 year. Now, Stevenson had 1 fight against pound for pound fighters, scored in 1 win against pound for pounders, but he scored 0 wins against pound for pound top 3 or pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. And not surprisingly, knowing his career really well, Adonis Stevenson's opposition fought rate is 1 from 18, and his opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So in fights against champions, Stevenson had 6, including 4 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, with 3 KOs. He has no fights against Hall of Famers, of course. And in world title fights, he did have a number of world title fights, 11 in total, with a record of 9 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, whilst making 9 title defences. So we have 3 fighters to go. Okay, when we go to fighter number 833, it's lower weight fighter, fantastic little fighter he was, Walter McGowan. Now Walter McGowan beat 1 world champion. Okay, he fought 46 rounds against champions. He beat no Hall of Famers and fought no rounds against Hall of Famers. Walter McGowan had 13 fights against rated opponents, and in terms of knockouts, he scored a total of 14. He scored 3 knockouts in 3 rounds or less and 0 knockouts in the first round. Now, Walter McGowan was top 10 rated for a total of 6 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 11 fights. Now, although not rated pound for pound in my all-time rankings, he did have 2 fights against pound for pounders, but scored no wins in the 3 pound for pound categories. And Walter McGowan's opposition fought rate was 2 from 18, and his opposition beat rate was 1 from 13. So Walter McGowan had 4 fights against champions. Okay, that included 1 win, 3 loss, no draw with no KOs. He has no fights against Hall of Famers, of course. And Walter McGowan had 3 world title fights, including 1 win, 2 loss, no draw, and no title defences. So there's Walter McGowan, 2 fighters to go. Fighter number 832, okay, is Ingo's Bingo, okay, the Swede Ingemar Johansson, a Hall of Famer who I deliberate whether he should be in the Hall of Fame. I think he's one of those fighters, albeit winning the heavyweight title against Patterson. He lost the other 2 fights and really didn't overly do too much else. Ingemar Johansson beat 1 world champion. He fought 14 rounds against champions. He beat 1 Hall of Fame fighter, the aforementioned Patterson, and he fought 14 rounds against Hall of Famers. Now, Ingemar Johansson had 9 fights against rated fighters, which is interesting when you think about his small career compared to fighters like Stevenson. He's a bit revealing. He scored 17 knockouts in his career, 6 of them in 3 rounds or less, and 2 in the first round. Now, Ingemar Johansson was top 10 rated for a total of 7 years, and the longest unbeaten run in his career was an unbeaten run of 22 fights. Now, he was pound for pound rated for 1 year in my all-time rankings. He also had 3 fights against pound for pounders, scoring 1 win, okay, but he scored no wins against pound for pound top 3 or pound for pound number 1 rated fighters. When we get to fighters like Harry Greb and Tommy Loughran and Jack Britton, that's where fighters like that's where those numbers come to the fore, okay, because some numbers are going to stagger you. So anyway, opposition fought rate is 1 from 18, and the opposition beat rate is 1 from 13. So Ingemar Johansson's career, pretty much, I think his Hall of Fame entry was simply on winning the heavyweight title in the trilogy with Patterson, and that's mirrored in his record against champions because all the fights are against Floyd Patterson. So his 3 fights against champions, including 1 win, 2 loss, no draw with 1 KO, and all of his Hall of Fame fights are against Floyd Patterson, so he has the same record. 3 fights, including 1 win, 2 loss, no draw, and 1 KO, and all 3 of his title fights were against Floyd Patterson, including 3 title fights, 1 win, 2 loss, no draw, and no title defences. So, Ingemar Johansson is number 9 of 10. The fighter in 10th position on this video, in number 831, is former heavyweight champion Michael Dokes, who took part in one of my all-time favourite brawls, okay, where the trunks were soaked and they were firing punches. One of the best fights you can watch, Michael Dokes against Evander Holyfield. It is an outstanding battle. In the end, Holyfield hurts him and rushes in, and the ref's trying to hold Holyfield, but Holyfield's trying to still swing a final right hand to make sure he finishes him, because he's gave Holyfield that work. He's really gave Holyfield a life and death battle. Holyfield was such an exciting fighter to watch. But anyway, back on to Michael Dokes. Okay, Dokes beat 2 world champions. He fought 48 rounds against champions. And Michael Dokes, okay, beat no Hall of Fame fighters. He did fight 10 rounds against Hall of Fame, i.e. the Hall of Fame I mentioned. And Michael Dokes had 11 fights against rated opponents. He scored 34 knockouts in his career, 18 of them in 3 rounds or less. And Michael Dokes also scored 7 first round wins. Now, he was quite a long rated heavyweight contender, being rated for 8 years throughout his career. And Michael Dokes' longest unbeaten run was 28 fights. Now, he was never pound-for-pound rated in my all-time rankings, Dokes. He did have 2 fights against pound-for-pound fighters, but scored 0 wins in the 3 pound-for-pound categories. And his opposition fought rate is 2 from 18, and the opposition beat rate is 2 from 13. So Dokes against champions. He beat 2 world champions. He had 7 fights against champions in total, including 2 wins, 3 losses, 2 draws, and 2 KOs. He also had 1 fight against said Hall of Famer Evander Holyfield, what was a defeat, and he has 4 world title fights that included 1 win, 2 loss, 1 draw, and 1 title defence. So there's my latest 10 fighters on my top 1000 countdown, okay, 840 to 831. We have 3 more videos to go over coming days before I get back onto some more career videos while getting the numbers 800 to 701 ready. So more videos coming over the coming days, weeks and months. But I'm really busy now trying to get these 2 massively awesome career files fully amended and adjusted as are Charles and Emil Griffiths. So I will say I am out for now. I'm the Boxing Librarian. I will catch you on the next one.